Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to welcome you to this session, Ocean and Climate Ambition, the International Partnership on Marine Protected Areas, Biodiversity, and Climate Change. I'm Sarah Hutto from the Greater Farallones Association, a non-governmental organization in California that supports the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Today we'll hear from government leaders and partners about a really exciting new global partnership to elevate marine protected areas as a tool in climate response. We'll learn about resources that are and will be available from the partnership, and we'll discuss how you might be able to become engaged in this alliance. It's my pleasure to moderate this session, which will start off with a short video about marine protected areas and climate change.
Whether we live on the coast or far inland, we all need a healthy ocean. But along with our climate, the ocean is rapidly changing. It's getting warmer, more acidic, and is losing oxygen. All that is hurting wildlife, ecosystems, and the livelihoods of millions of people around the globe. We all know about the need to fight the climate crisis, but many don't know just how important the ocean is in the solution. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature, or IUCN, has clearly stated that a healthy ocean can play a key role in reducing atmospheric carbon. Carbon that's captured and stored in our marine systems is called blue carbon. Carbon is captured by algae, plankton, and habitats like mangroves, salt marshes, seagrasses, and kelp. This living carbon is stored in vegetation or moves through the food chain, and when it dies, it can be stored in sediments on the seafloor. Some habitats also trap sediment and the carbon it contains. Storing carbon in sediments removes it from the atmosphere and holds it for as long as it remains undisturbed. Marine protected areas are essential safeguards for these blue carbon habitats and all the other benefits ocean and coastal ecosystems provide, including storm protection, erosion control, food production, and jobs that support recreation and tourism. There's a global movement to significantly expand the extent of marine protected areas to at least 30% of the ocean by 2030. At a UN climate conference in 2019, a global alliance of government agencies and science experts formed an international partnership to exchange knowledge and expertise on marine protected areas, biodiversity, and climate change, and advance the role of marine protected areas globally. By engaging national leaders and local stakeholders, they aim to show how marine protected area networks can simultaneously conserve biodiversity and help reach climate change mitigation and adaptation targets, creating a better future for the ocean and nations around the world. We must reduce carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere now, and do all we can to expand the role that the ocean plays. Right now, we have an unparalleled opportunity to address the linked crises of climate change and biodiversity loss. We're calling on the global community to recognize the essential role that marine protected areas play in providing natural solutions to our climate crisis, and the countless benefits that a healthy ocean provides to all of us. Let's harness the healing power of marine protected areas in the fight to control and adapt to climate change.
As that video so beautifully illustrates, the ocean is critical to regulating the global climate, and all nations rely on healthy marine ecosystems to support life on Earth. It is now my honor to invite Dr. Richard Spinrad, the U.S. Undersecretary for Ocean and Atmosphere and NOAA Administrator, to provide opening remarks on the importance of MPAs in addressing climate change.
Thank you, Sarah. It really is an honor to be here today with all of you on behalf of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and to participate on this very special panel with such distinguished representatives from countries taking a leadership role to advance the role of marine protected areas as climate solutions. You're going to hear a lot of discussion about partnership this morning. And if I might just take a moment and point out, I learned a lot about partnership from a mentor of mine, Admiral Jim Watkins, some 20 years ago, who made very clear that there were 4 key elements in partnering: shared objectives, clear roles and responsibilities, committed resources, and strong championing. You're going to see aspects of all of those in each of the presentations and dialogue we have here today. NOAA's mission is to understand and predict changes in climate, weather, and oceans and coasts, to share that knowledge and information with others, and to conserve and manage coastal and marine ecosystems and resources. In that role, we recognize the critical need for authoritative climate information to inform decision-making at international, national, and local scales, and help us better understand the pivotal role that the ocean plays as the life support system of our planet. In addition to studying the Earth's climate and delivering essential science and tools on climate to decision makers, NOAA also cooperatively manages 2 systems of marine protected areas: national marine sanctuaries and national estuarine research reserves. Today, MPAs from each of these systems will be highlighted as case studies, demonstrating the role MPAs can play in addressing our climate crisis. COP25 in 2019, as you just heard, also known as the Blue COP, was a milestone in bringing the ocean to the forefront of climate negotiations. That event led to the creation of the International Partnership on NPAs, Biodiversity, and Climate Change. NOAA welcomes this international partnership because we believe that MPAs are an essential tool to address climate change and its impacts, and protecting the ocean requires a comprehensive, coordinated global effort. The partnership's common vision is a future in which informed decision makers invest and take concrete actions to implement MPAs and MPA networks as nature-based solutions for biodiversity conservation and climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. We share this vision at NOAA for a future in which we address climate threats in part through initiatives that protect our marine ecosystems and resources and secure sustainable livelihoods and economic activities. I'm also pleased to share a new initiative by NOAA and the U.S. Department of State. The Blue Carbon Inventory Project works with countries to include the carbon mitigation benefits of coastal wetlands in their national greenhouse gas inventories, while supporting their long-term protection as part of biodiversity and coastal management strategies. Healthy wetlands, including mangroves, seagrasses, and salt marshes, can protect coastal communities from storms, waves, erosion, and flooding, protect biodiversity, and provide ecosystem services that support livelihoods, culture, food security, water quality, recreation, and tourism. Protection and restoration of these ecosystems can also increase removal of carbon from the atmosphere, storing it for centuries in coastal sediments. As demonstrated, MPAs play a key role in both climate adaptation and mitigation. Marine and coastal protected areas also offer other important opportunities to protect and restore blue carbon by providing long-term conservation, preventing emissions from the loss and degradation of these habits as well. MPAs also serve as focal points for research, education, and community engagement. The partnership we're presenting today demonstrates the potential for nations to work together to address the biodiversity and climate crises through effectively managed MPAs and MPA networks, both nationally and internationally. We'll also discuss the many reasons why ocean conservation needs to be a key and permanent component of the global climate dialogue and negotiations. Remember, the partnership is about objectives, roles, resources, and champions. I look forward to the great work ahead of us and that which we can accomplish together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Spinrad, for sharing NOAA's commitment to providing the critical science that's needed to address climate change and conserve our ocean and coasts. It's now my pleasure to introduce U.S. Senator Brian Schatz from Hawaii, who will speak about Hawaii's and the United States' experience creating one of the largest MPAs on Earth. Senator.
Good morning. It is a real honor to be here. Thank you, Sarah, for the kind introduction. Thank you to the panelists for all of the great work you're doing, and thank you to the audience. I want to recognize my colleague, Senator Heinrich, who represents New Mexico but gets into the ocean more than you might think for a senator from New Mexico. The importance of marine protected areas has never been greater. MPAs are vital to the health of the planet itself. They play a role in maintaining biodiversity. They serve as refuges to sea life harmed by climate change and other human activity. And they allow us to study ecosystems and collect the data necessary to generate climate solutions. MPAs can also be a powerful nature-based solution, but they don't have to mean conservation at the expense of everything else. And I want to offer an example from the state of Hawaii. Papahanaumokuakea is the world's largest permanent marine reserve. At 580,000 square miles, it surrounds much of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. It is home to more than 7,000 marine species, many unique to the Pacific, including the world's oldest living animal, a black coral that researchers think is 4,500 years old. In Hawaii, the ocean is a vital part of who we are. Creating Papahanaumokuakea was a way to protect it for future generations. But we didn't just do the right thing by creating it, we did it in the right way. The idea for this monument started when the Native Hawaiian community came to me. My friend William Ila and my friend Saul Kaho'olahala came to me and asked for this. They'd known the land and the ocean for centuries, and their understanding, I just want to, as they say, bring them into the room. They'd known this land for centuries, and their understanding and guidance in establishing it was invaluable. As we moved forward, we focused on community building. We worked with commercial and small boat fishers to shape the borders of the monument and drew them so they'd be able to continue fishing. This wasn't a giant aquarium. The purpose here was to enable the longline fleet to continue to fish for big-eye tuna. Certainly, probably mixed opinions even on this panel about that, Dr. Spinrad. But this kept the support of the community and allowed us to keep fish as a food source. We also worked extensively with scientists to understand how to protect the area's species. These protections fully sustain a genetic diversity that can support adaptation to climate change throughout the Pacific and potentially the world. And we recognize that the work didn't end with the ribbon cutting ceremony. And I have to talk to my friends in the environmental community. I started as an environmental advocate in the not-for-profit sector. You are all my friends. The work starts with the establishment of the MPA. The work does not end with the establishment of the MPA. Drawing a line on a map is not the point. Protecting the resource is the point. And so we work closely with the nonprofits and the federal government to ensure that resources for ongoing research and monitoring were established. Now, traditional enforcement is essential, but so is outreach, because you cannot protect 580,000 square miles without community buy-in. The result is an active, thriving marine monument, not just lines on a map that make us all feel good. So as we further pursue the expansion of MPAs globally, and we must, We must follow a similar process using community building and active management. Doing so protects biodiversity, supports productive fisheries, builds the political support for MPAs. These are not simple steps to take, but they make all the difference in the world, and they represent a model which can be replicated all across the planet. We did the right thing in the right way and for the right reasons. In the meantime, I'm proud to be part of this solution, and I look forward to seeing all of what you can accomplish with all of our collective efforts. Thank you very much. Mahalo.
Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us this morning. And we appreciate your leadership on both addressing climate change and conserving our coast and ocean. I would now like to introduce Cynthia Barzuna, the Vice Minister of Water and Seas in Costa Rica, who will be speaking on the need for global partnerships. Vice Minister.
Good morning and thank you. Costa Rica is 92% sea. So, as you know, oceans are essential for us. Having this conversation is essential for Costa Rica and for the rest of the world. As the doctor mentioned before me, there was a blue COP, and that's when all started. I would hope that every COP is a blue COP from now on. We have managed to protect 27% of our land. However, only 3% of our marine area is protected. As you all know, scientists are clear that we need to urgently expand our protected and conserved areas to at least 30% of the planet's land and ocean by 2030 to curb biodiversity loss. Therefore, this need to conserve and sustainably manage our seas, primary source for productivity and resilience to climate change, has become one of our main focus. Costa Rica has extensive experience in working on building alliances and strengthening collaborations globally. For example, we are co-founders of the High Ambition Coalition, and Costa Rica is committed, and we have integrated in our NDCs the 30 by 30 targets, and which is also directly related to the implementation of post-2020 framework of the Biodiversity Convention ratified by Costa Rica in 1994. The HAC is an intergovernmental group co-chaired by Costa Rica and France, and the United Kingdom as co-chair on ocean issues. This initiative promotes a global agreement for nature and people with the goal of protecting at least 30% of the world's land and oceans by 2030. The 30 by 30 goal is global. It aims to stop loss, acceleration of species, and protect vital ecosystems that are the source of economic security. Ocean and climate actions require for us to bridge the work streams we are undertaking in our countries to collective, regional, and global scales. Together, we can identify and implement cost-effective strategies toward a global effort in ocean-based solutions. Marine protected areas are a central pillar for biodiversity conservation in marine ecosystems, and we have, right now, a global momentum for the 30% protection. We must take this chance. For each of us, our national goals, and truly unveil the potential of MPAs as a cost-effective, nature-based solution. There are evidence gaps that need to be filled and tools that need to be developed. This is why the international partnership on MPAs, biodiversity, and climate change is so critical for our One Ocean, and I would urge countries to strongly consider joining our mission. We need more of you. We believe a global collaboration between government agencies and scientists is one of the best ways forward to do this important work. Thank you very much for having us here today. Thank you for the opportunity of talking about this very important mission that we have as a planet. Let us concentrate on the ocean. Let us hope for more countries to join us for the first goal, which is the 30 by 30, and we'll start from then. And we'll find more ways to connect biodiversity with the ocean solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Minister, for recognizing the importance of this partnership. Our next speaker, Laura Cusson, from the Ministry of the Environment in Chile, was instrumental in establishing the international partnership as an outcome from COP25, and will now share the vision and progress from COP25 to COP26 and moving forward. Laura is joining us from Santiago, Chile.
Thank you, Sarah, and I'm so happy to join you all from Santiago, Chile today. Chile hosted the first Blue COP in Madrid, introducing a mandate to address the ocean under the United Nations Framework on Climate Change Convention agenda. This was a critical step in promoting the ocean and climate action as a single, integrated challenge. At COP25, Chile hosted a side event with representatives from the US, Chile, the UK, Costa Rica, and France to discuss the question, what is the role of marine protected areas in tackling climate change? An outcome of the side event was an agreement by the 5 countries to establish the International Partnership on MPAs, Biodiversity and Climate Change, co-led by Chile and the UK, and announced on June 2, 2021. These 5 founding countries represent more than 50% of the protected surface of the global ocean, which presents an opportunity to collaborate on projects that can have a wide-reaching impact. This partnership also presents an opportunity for countries to move forward together for the good of our planet. Thanks to the collaborative efforts of the 5 founding agencies between these 5 countries, as well as supporting scientists from the IUCN and Scottish Blue Carbon Forum, we have made significant progress in developing a framework for our partnership. First, we started with a concept born at COP25 of what this could become, and that has evolved into a partnership with a governance structure made up of a steering committee with 2 technical groups and a communication subcommittee. We agreed on a global vision with goals and objectives to achieve that vision. The partnership was announced in June of this year and officially launched this week during COP26, inviting other interested partners to become members. Products are also being developed and will be all hosted on the partnership website. Today, we will present an overview of 2 case studies on the role of MPAs in addressing climate change. The website will be a platform for decision makers and MPA managers to find evidence supporting the role of MPAs in conserving biodiversity and tackle climate change. And most importantly, the partners have signed a non-binding commitment to work together and are inviting others to join us to do so during the UN Decade of the Ocean. So as to our vision and our goals, first of all, our vision is that globally decision makers will implement MPA networks as nature-based solutions for biodiversity conservation and climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. And that here are 3 goals wherein decision makers understand the link between the ocean, MPAs, and climate change, and have the support needed to implement MPAs as a nature-based solution. Decision makers link MPAs, biodiversity, and climate change as a contribution to national and international commitments. And very importantly, countries globally have the evidence and tools they need to implement effective MPA networks that mitigate climate change, conserve biodiversity, and increase resilience. So fundamentally, we intend to achieve our vision through, on the one hand, enhanced understanding, that is, by supplying and developing evidence, and on the other hand, providing tools and approaches based on this evidence to support decision makers as well as MPA managers to support climate-smart MPAs globally. Chile served as the COP25 presidency and initiated the Blue COP and is really thankful to the United Kingdom, the COP26 presidency for continuing to incorporate the importance of the ocean in addressing climate change. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Beth Flavel of the Joint Nature Conservation Committee in the United Kingdom, who is co-leader of the partnership with Chile. Beth will provide more detail on the structure and activities of the partnership and how you can join our alliance.
Thank you very much, Laura. It's an honour to be here today and to be co-leading this partnership on behalf of JNCC and Chile's Ministry of the Environment. The partnership's a tremendous opportunity for member agencies and for the global ocean community to leverage our collective work on marine conservation and to help fill knowledge gaps in considering marine protected areas as nature-based solutions to address the twin crises of biodiversity loss and climate change. You've heard about some of our work to date, but this is just the beginning of our journey. Our countries are well placed to make important decisions for our ocean and for the future. The international partnership can help with this in providing the elements needed to make informed decisions for the future management of marine protected areas. The international partnership also represents an opportunity to explore potential diplomatic, bilateral and multilateral opportunities to support and implement common goals in marine resource conservation that address the effects of climate change. This is all realised through the structure of the partnership and particularly through our technical groups. So Technical Group 1 focuses on building the evidence base around the role of marine protected areas as nature-based solutions and communicating this evidence to support global decision making. Technical Group 2 focuses on building the capacity of marine protected area managers through providing tools and best practices to understand and implement climate change planning to adaptively manage our marine protected areas. Today here at COP26, we invite country partners to join our partnership either by contacting us through the partnership website or coming to speak to us today. There's no requirement to contribute financially. Instead, we ask that members actively contribute so we can work collaboratively on this critical issue. Oh, I need my... There we go. But why marine protected areas, biodiversity and climate change? This infographic visualises the role marine protected areas can play in conserving biodiversity, mitigating climate change and supporting adaptive capacity. For example, close to the coast, our global mangrove forests and salt marshes are key features in the absorption of atmospheric carbon dioxide through the process of photosynthesis. Protecting these coastal features from impacts gives us the best chance of conserving these ecosystems and the climate regulation services they provide. Not to mention the role they play in providing a natural form of protection against the projected increases in storminess of our seas that could come with climate change. Moving further into the subtidal environment, marine protected areas serve as an opportunity to conserve vitally important seagrass beds and broader marine vegetation from damaging impacts such as fishing pressure or boat anchoring. Marine protected areas, whilst presenting an opportunity to enable passive recovery of marine ecosystems, can also function as target points for active restoration methods and active research into blue carbon stocks and fluxes to improve our knowledge base. The engagement and education that accompanies some NPAs can also help raise awareness of the importance of these habitats with local communities and stakeholders. And finally, it's not just blue carbon habitats that are important to conserve and for which marine protected areas are considered a critical piece of the puzzle. Marine mammals and the maintenance of healthy populations play a key role in the carbon they store in their bodies. The so-called whale pump is becoming increasingly recognised as important in the regulation of carbon, whereby whale falls help to ensure carbon remains locked in the deep sea, and whale defecation allows localized plankton blooms, particularly in relatively nutrient-poor waters, that help to fix atmospheric carbon dioxide. The partnership website provides links to resources which further explain and illustrate the importance of marine protected areas. This will be further demonstrated now through a series of case studies that will be released in the new year. But I'm going to hand over now to Sarah Hutto, the author of one of the case studies, who will provide you with further information.
Thank you, Beth. That was a great introduction to the ways that MPAs can address climate change. And what I'd like to do now is highlight one of the resources that the partnership has developed to help guide managers of marine protected areas and to inform decision makers in the role that MPAs play in mitigating climate change and protecting biodiversity. To more clearly demonstrate that link between blue carbon and marine protected areas, the partnership is developing a collection of case studies of projects that are underway or have been completed in partnership countries. These case study documents include the aims, methods, and approaches of the projects, as well as outcomes and lessons learned. One of the case studies expands upon the thinking of blue carbon systems to include marine processes such as the export of kelp carbon to deep sea environments. The kelp forests of the North American West Coast support biodiversity and are really significant for local tribes, coastal communities, and recreational and commercial fisheries. In addition, kelp forests also provide an important role in carbon sequestration. As a blue carbon ecosystem, kelp absorbs carbon dioxide from the water during photosynthesis, fixes that carbon into its tissues, and during winter storms or through herbivory, when that kelp material is removed from the rocks on which the kelp grows, an estimated 11% of that kelp carbon ends up in the deep sea environment where it can be stored indefinitely. However, worldwide, kelp forests are being lost due to a number of environmental factors, including ocean warming. And in Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, a federal marine protected area in California that protects over 3,000 square miles of coast and ocean, we've seen vast kelp beds transform into bare rock urchin barrens. Using novel methodology that for the first time estimates bull kelp biomass using satellite imagery, we were able to calculate that this loss in kelp has resulted in a 99% reduction in carbon sequestration. Demonstrating the value of kelp's carbon sequestration potential just further reinforces the need to protect and restore important coastal ecosystems like these kelp forests. And at Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, we've begun doing just that through our Kelp Recovery Program, which in partnership with Greater Farallones Association, we're working to restore the region's kelp forests and their carbon removal capabilities in federal and state marine protected areas. We're doing this through advanced monitoring, collaborative partnerships, and novel restoration approaches. Marine protected areas provide the critical leadership, the management framework, and the place-based focus that's really necessary for such large-scale research and testing of novel restoration methods, so that we can restore critically important habitats such as these kelp forests. In addition to the Farallones Kelp case study, the partnership is producing 5 additional case studies that feature mangrove restoration in Costa Rica, seagrass restoration in France, climate-informed decision-making for seabed sediments in the United Kingdom, tidal wetland carbon market participation in the United States, and a public-private program to implement Chile's MPA network with a climate focus. And 2 of these case studies are currently available on our website, with the remainder to come soon. These documents will help decision makers and MPA managers learn more about the role MPAs play in conserving biodiversity and addressing climate change. And the launch of this partnership has stimulated international collaboration on both emerging science and innovative approaches to manage MPAs in a changing climate. As the partnership grows, resources like these case studies will increasingly become available on our website. So we will now hear from Finya Mara of the French Biodiversity Agency on upcoming opportunities for engagement with the partnership. Finya is joining us from Brest, France.
To engage with the United Nations Ocean Conference, which will be held in Lisbon in June 2022. So we invite you to join us on this journey to become a member of the International Partnership, and we would like to now take the opportunity to discuss the importance of the partnership with our panel members and audience. Thank you, Sarah, for guiding this conversation.
Thank you, Finya. It looks like we have time for a couple questions. And so I would like to start this out by directing our first question to Dr. Spinrad and Vice Minister Barzuna. And that is really in regards to the title of this session, Ocean Ambition. And I would love to hear from both of you. What is your ocean ambition for how marine protected areas can help us meet our climate goals and secure a more sustainable future?
Thank you. So basically, our goal is to have more and more marine protected areas. But as previously mentioned before, it is important not only to create these marine protected areas, but what's next? What happens next? This is where we need to create the mechanisms, and we need to find the proper solutions to take care of these marine protected areas, to understand them. It's not just creating them, it's not just having them on paper, it's what we do afterwards with them, how we work with all the stakeholders involved. We need to take that into account as well. And for us, it's quite ambitious. We want to create as many marine protected areas as we can, but it's also about monitoring the investigation, having the proper information to take care of these marine areas, and of course the connectivity between other marine protected areas, nationally and internationally. So for that, our vision is to have better understanding through monitoring, through studying, through scientific and nature-based and ocean-based solutions, of course.
I think you're going to hear a lot of similarity in my response to the ambition question, as you just heard from Vice Minister Baruna. And it comes down to raising awareness. So I will use an example that's very specific to the United States, but I think you'll get my point. I don't think there is a school child in the United States who doesn't know what Yellowstone National Park is, or why it's a national park. You heard Senator Schatz allude to Papahanaumakuakea. I would venture to guess less than 1% of American school children know what Papahanaumakuakea is, much less why it deserves the protection of a marine protected area. So part of this is about raising awareness, and I would argue that every reason we protect terrestrial parks is as valid as the reasons we're talking about establishing marine protected areas. How do we get to that level of awareness? That's one part of my ambition. The second part is about having healthy, sustainable ecosystems. And I think they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think Sarah's photo of the impacts on the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary with the loss of an environment in terms of consequences to carbon sequestration is part of the answer with respect to coastal ecosystems. The other part, and I would refer people to a terrific publication that came out by Enrique Sala and co-authors just last year, demonstrates the incredible value of marine protected areas in terms of both biodiversity and biomass. We talk about these areas as being the nurseries for growth of populations of sustainable fisheries, but also the biodiversity associated with them. And this gets to the point the Vice Minister just made, is that we can't do this by having one really good marine protected area in one nation around the world. That biodiversity is global biodiversity, and so consequently this partnership and the expected growth of the partnership is how the ambition of biodiversity, biomass, and carbon sequestration will be realized. Thank you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to hear those inspiring words and to hear that our global leaders are really on the same page about what we want to see happen. That brings me to my next question, and maybe we can hear first from Beth, and that is, how can we best work together to tackle the linked ocean climate and biodiversity crises?
Thanks, Sarah. We're here today at COP26, and it's Nature Day, and we've been hearing a lot about nature-based solutions, and that's going to be, one of the key ways that we can look to address the twin biodiversity loss and climate change crises. Looking at nature-based solutions, understanding, the evidence base, but critically from that, how we can share that knowledge between us. And the partnership's a great example of that, of how we can collectively work together to share experiences, share evidence, share knowledge. It was great to hear about that example from Hawaii, from the senator. So that we can collectively work together, collaborating to move forward against the challenges that we all face. And so it's great to hear about the partnership. It's great to hear about nature and nature-based solutions being sort of discussed so much today. But we look forward to this conversation continuing throughout, post-COP into 2022, the events that Fenya mentioned and beyond. And we welcome everybody to join us in those ongoing discussions. Would anybody else like to take that question? No? Sarah?
I do agree with you. Partnerships are essential, and sharing this know-how, and we do not have to reinvent the wheel. We can share all this information, and that's the way to go, to make a global ocean, to think as globally as we can. And of course, I think it's of the most importance to share all this knowledge, all this scientific knowledge and solutions, and to incorporate inclusivity has to be essential, and recurring dialogue, I agree. Recurring dialogue on oceans is very important, and I think that's a message that we have to get through this COP.
Thank you. I would say yea, verily, amen, absolutely to the previous comments, and just simply add that part of the value, I think, in the partnership is going to be for us to get out more, if you will. It's wonderful to have this discussion behind 3 rows of card checks and security checks. How do we have this discussion with the public writ large? How do we have this discussion in all of the venues, including this COP and future COPs? And that's incumbent on us to carry the message out outside the chain link fence to the extent we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your insight. And thank you to all of our session speakers for sharing their vision today for elevating the ocean and MPAs in this venue. It's wonderful to see so much focus on our special ocean places in the context of climate change. This has been a really inspiring session, and to close us out, I would now like to invite Professor Colin Galbraith, Chair of the UK's Joint Nature Conservation Committee, to provide the closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Vice Minister, Senators, ladies and gentlemen, and colleagues. This has been a fantastic event, and it really is an honour and a pleasure to be here with you all to celebrate the launch of the International Partnership on MPAs, Biodiversity and Climate Change. Thank you especially to colleagues from the US for hosting this event. We're very grateful to you. As we've heard today, climate change combined with other pressures such as pollution, overexploitation, is having a catastrophic effect on the ocean health and on its ability to continue to provide ecosystem functions critical to all life. We heard also that we need to continue to understand the ocean, to value it, and to manage it sustainably. For all these reasons, the UK is putting nature at the heart of this COP, championing the protection and restoration of marine ecosystems to improve the ocean's natural resilience. Resilience is key, and to see a step change in nature-based solutions that we are, I think, beginning to witness now. So what has this session demonstrated to me? Well, the international partnership, it's that partnership word again, is a wonderful example of clearly focused action. We are proud to work in such a strong and innovative collaborative arrangement with our partners. We're particularly grateful to the Chilean government and Chilean colleagues for the fantastic success of the previous COP, the Blue COP, for raising our ambitions about ocean management and conservation, and for putting the global ocean so high on everyone's agenda. This is a really huge achievement, especially in these challenging times as we work our way through the global pandemic, the COVID pandemic. Also, as we look to reset our relationship with nature, the Convention on Biological Diversity, COP15, is just now around the corner. What does that mean for us all in terms of ocean conservation? We all know that we can only tackle climate change and increase resilience and adaptation if we protect and restore nature on a scale unlike anything that we've seen. But the key message I've taken from today is we can do this. This is not just an aspiration. This is something we can do through practical action. Tackling the twin crises, and they are twin crises, of climate change and nature loss together makes both ecological sense, I'm an ecologist, but it also makes economic sense. With care, we have a chance to achieve a win here for nature and for our economies. This is the key message that I'm taking from what we've seen. For the global ocean, this means that managing and restoring marine ecosystems is in a truly sustainable way, alongside creating more marine protected areas, can, when well managed, deliver the benefits we all need. And that's for people, it's for local communities that we heard from the Senator, but it's also for local people in general and for the global community. But it's also for nature, and we've seen today it's also for our climate. That synergy between these issues is key. As Beth rightly explained, the nexus of biodiversity, climate and MPAs is really critical to effectively delivering this in a cost-effective way. So looking ahead, what can we achieve and how can we achieve it? Global collaboration is key to realising the real benefits that MPAs can provide. And we have the opportunity now in this special year, through this partnership, to put oceans and marine biodiversity really on the road to recovery. We depend on all your involvement and all your help. As a leader of the Global Ocean Alliance and Ocean Co-Chair of the High Ambition Coalition, the UK, along with the international partnership, is really committed to championing an ambitious post-2020 global biodiversity to be adopted, hopefully, at COP15. We have that real opportunity. This will, as we've heard, include a new target to protect at least 30% of the world's land and of the global ocean as protected areas, and as other effective nature-based conservation measures. The 30 by 30 target is a life support system for me and for us all. So we heard what's happening already. We should take the opportunity now to congratulate our partnership colleagues, Costa Rica, along with Ecuador, Colombia and Panama, who have announced the creation of the Eastern Tropical Pacific Marine Corridor Initiative. This is a huge initiative, joining and protecting more than 500,000 square kilometres of ocean in one of the world's most important migratory routes for sea turtles, whales, sharks and rays. Costa Rica, a fantastic country, nearly as nice as Scotland, is all I would say. It's a fantastic initiative. We would also like to celebrate and commend our NOAA colleagues for signing of the Protected and Conserved Areas Joint Statement on Climate Change and Biodiversity Crises, signed yesterday. This agreement sets out how protected and conserved areas will play a transformative role in dealing with the dual crises of climate change and biodiversity. We celebrate your initiative and your enthusiasm. In the United Kingdom, to tackle the twin crises of climate change and biodiversity loss, our Prime Minister announced that the UK will spend at least £3 billion in international climate finance from the official development assistance budget, and that will be focused on solutions that protect and restore nature and biodiversity over a 5-year period. And importantly for today, that includes our flagship £500 million Blue Planet Fund, which aims to support marine conservation and reduce poverty around the world. Our French partners have shown their commitment to tackling the twin crises through practical actions for MPA management, sharing their knowledge and best practice through the partnership. I look forward to seeing what more the partnership can do to lead in this type of knowledge exchange and initiative in the months and year ahead. It is really important work that we have evidence that needs to be translated into policy and, even more importantly, into action. As we heard today, the international partnership aims to give global decision makers the tools and the critical evidence that they need to implement MPAs as a nature-based solution. It is that evidence that shows that MPAs really work, and that is striking. Management going forward is the key, as we heard. It's not just about classifying, designating areas, it's how we manage them, it's how we take them forward together. In this partnership, each partner brings skills, expertise and experience to the initiative. It does a real credit to the collective ambition of the Blue COP and now of this COP here in Glasgow. Looking ahead, we really do need to continue with energy and with dedication, building on the initiative that our American partners and colleagues in NOAA have shown in considering climate change vulnerability in the context of how you adaptively manage MPAs in the future. And their enthusiasm in helping us launch this partnership is really fantastic. So, in conclusion, I'm delighted that JNCC is, as a key advisor to the UK government, is part of this endeavour, which, whilst the initiative overall is still in its infancy, there's a lot to do, it shows great promise looking ahead and is already having a key global impact. I know you'll all be keen to learn more about the work that's been launched. If you have any questions about the partnership, please visit our website at www.mpabioclimate.org, which is really worth a look. So in conclusion, can I just thank all our speakers, partners, sponsors, supporters and moderators for making today's event such a success. Thank you for joining us. But just in closing, can I just add a little personal touch, which is, I grew up in the west of Scotland here, beside the ocean. The ocean is undoubtedly part of us. It is what makes us. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you.